On the field, off the field, sports talk, entertainment, and more. This is Sauce on the Side.
Well, hello there, Dippers, and welcome back to episode 69 of the Sauce on the Side podcast. As always, Dippers, I'm your host, Drake, joined by the man, the producer, Leighton Pip Shaventone.
Nice.
And joining us, the hot take detective, Mr. Brandon B. Riker.
Let's take you back to 2016. Carmelo Anthony is in the Big Apple, disgruntled at the Knicks management, and waives his no-trade clause for a few select lucky teams. He played so well in that 2017 season that the Atlanta Hawks were willing to pay him $27.9 million to make sure he never stepped on the court in a Hawks jersey. He then gets to go to a true championship contender that just happened to have a huge hole in the forward position. He has been so piss poor that an undrafted rookie has taken his role on the team, and he is to be released. Life comes at you fast, Melo.
It absolutely does, man. I cannot wait to dive into the Melo talk. I think that's gonna be one of the highlights of the show this week. Melo, he's a legend. He is a living legend. Guys, we have an awesome show. I am very excited about it. Before we get to anything, guys, be sure to get on Spotify or iTunes or both. Make sure you subscribe, rate, give us the 5-star review. Check out thefsgn.com where you can find our podcast and other podcasts as well. Be sure to follow on Twitter and Instagram at The Saucy Pod. And, guys, we have a very, very awesome interview for you today. Our man Fletch from Hump Day Hoops Hysteria. He's sometimes on the Monday show, and he also has Food for Thought. He went out and interviewed Chris Harris. Chris Harris is an excellent, excellent fantasy sports mind, and they sit down and talk a little bit about some fantasy football. It is an interview that you guys do not want to miss. Guys, this week, we have the Week 10 NFL recap. Things were absolutely wild in the NFL. I think we had more upsets this week than we've had maybe all year as far as teams that were 7-point dogs going out and finding a way to win. We have the word association recap. We will talk a little bit about the NCAA and some very odd things that came out this week involving Tom Herman and Zach Smith. A little preview for you. We have a matchup that I'm very, very excited to talk about. We will hit on the Jimmy Butler trade to the 76ers. We'll talk a little bit about Carmelo Anthony, and we will be back with the saucy 6-pack of games. Spoiler alert, there are no Cowboys and no Giants. So, guys, back to what I was saying about the NFL. It was a very, very wild week. I mean, I think we had 4 teams that were 7-point or more underdogs or 6-point underdogs find a way to win, including the Buffalo Bills. But we will start it off first with the Dez situation. Guys, his career as a Saint. 2 practices.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead and talk about the times that we remember as Dez as a Saint.
Well, I remember when he showed up and, he made all the cryptic tweets for 10 weeks, 9 weeks, how long it was, about how he was signing the team. Finally signed the team, the team rejoices and embraces him. Embraced him so much, actually. If you didn't know he got hurt and know why he wasn't playing, you might have thought he died on Sunday. Because Kamara, Michael Thomas, and Mark Ingram all threw up the X. He did for 2 days. How big an impact could he have actually had on them?
Well, I mean, you hit right around the head there. I mean, he must be a great teammate. Everybody dogs him about his locker room presence, but literally he was on the team for 2 days and everybody was throwing up the X sign. Jesus Christ. Yeah, that was great, Leighton. It looked like he died on Sunday.
Yeah, he had a good run, guys. If Dez comes back to the NFL at some point and, he ends up being a Hall of Famer or, maybe the writers think that his career up to this point was good enough to sneak him into the Hall of Fame, does he go in as a Saint or a Cowboy?
Well, he's going to go in as a Cowboy. But
free agent.
Free agent.
Free agent.
Free agent Dez Bryant, welcome to the Hall of Fame.
It's also just kind of funny that he actually got a wide receiver coach, and he got to show that off for 2 practices.
Yeah,
Not
two
even 2
practices. Yeah, like a practice and a half. I think he got actually hurt on the last route, which is really a bummer because I was wanting to see Dez come back to the NFL and be with Drew Brees because, it's hard to think that Drew Brees wouldn't have made him successful, but it's just basically a hoping and wishing game at this point. So, guys, Leighton, congratulations. Your Texans went a 6th straight week without losing.
That's right.
And congratulations to both you guys. You kept the Carolina Panthers out of the contender card. Very, very good move by your guys' point. I didn't want to do it. I put them in the contender card. But, guys, they got beat by the Steelers on Thursday, 52-21. Is there anything to be learned by this game on Thursday night, or do you think this is just what we grow to expect on Thursday night?
Well, the fact that the game is on Thursday night is always bad for the road team. But last week I didn't realize this, but the Panthers are 6-3, and they're 1-3 on the road. They've won one road game, and it's not like every team, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Band, like they lost to the Redskins on the road. And the Redskins are awful. Like, they were in the division, not I mentioned, for the call last week. So, it is worrisome for the Panthers that they can't win these games on the road against not just the Steelers, but the Washington Redskins and teams like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's a very good point. They can't win on the road. I didn't even realize that stat. But I think the only thing I took from this, I don't take so much negative towards the Panthers. I mean, I never really thought they were for real anyway, but I just like the fact that we were high on the Steelers and they went out there and just took care of business. And their offense is for real. And their defense, honestly, isn't that bad this year. And that's really what's hampered them in the past. But again, it's on a Thursday night. The Steelers were at home. You got to take it with kind of a grain of salt.
Yeah, I agree. Do you guys like Thursday night games? Like, I have some crazy stats for you guys on these Thursday night games. Home teams so far this year are 7-2. The only teams that have lost at home have been the Cardinals and the Giants. Both those teams have won one game apiece. So, do you guys think that they should get rid of these Thursday nights? Because if you're a Thursday night team that has to go on the road and play a team that is, equal or better than you, it almost seems like you have absolutely no chance. And that's basically going to go into maybe deciding your hopes at the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, Thursday night games, just from a fan perspective, I'm looking forward to watching them all day Thursday, but a lot of them do end like this. Like, I hadn't had this game on the TV for the whole second half because it was 31-14 at halftime. So that part kind of sucks, but I do look forward to the game without the day.
Yeah. I don't know. I do like watching more football. More football is always good. But why do you pick Thursday night? Is it because Friday is for high school football and college is Saturdays? I mean, players that have a injury, like we're waiting to see, like they usually don't even practice till Thursday. And we're asking these guys to play on Thursday. Like, I don't get that. That's already at a disadvantage. It seems like too early, especially if you have like a Sunday night game to turn around and play on a Thursday. And on top of that, clearly it hasn't done that great because the NFL decided to throw the color rush jerseys on Thursday. I mean, if you're trying to throw gimmicks on a day, clearly that's probably not the best day of football.
No, I agree. I mean, if you're trying to gimmick people into watching a game, there's a huge, huge problem. And I said that these teams are 7-2 whenever they're the home team playing on Thursday night. I look at that Cardinals and Broncos game. I throw that out. Like, we knew that the Cardinals had no chance of winning that game. The Cardinals are horrible. Philadelphia Eagles and the Giants. The Giants have been such a train wreck this year. You have to throw that game out, too. And then I looked at all the remaining games that they've had on Thursday night. Like, it seems like even all the other games have been pretty evenly matched. Like, you look at Baltimore, Cincy, pretty evenly matched. Jets, Browns, evenly matched. Vikings, Rams, so on and so forth. Like, all these teams are pretty comparable to one another. Guys, they are getting outscored 37-20. That is the average score of Thursday night football games for games that should actually, games that look like on paper that they are competitive. Mm-hmm. And that is absolutely terrible. And Brandon, you hit it on the head. Whenever we're going through and doing our evaluations for FanDuel and stuff like that, you look and you try to find reports on these guys, because I start my research on Thursday mm-hmm. and then Friday. Like, most of the guys, like you said, that are even a little nicked up, they don't even log a full practice until Thursday or Friday. Most of the time it's Friday, and it's a limited session on Thursday. So you're expecting these guys who are banged up. They have to play 16 games in the NFL in 17 weeks, and you expect them to come back out after a Sunday football game and play on Thursday. I feel like that is just, it's A, asking for injury, and B, you're basically setting these teams up for failure. So I don't understand it, and I think that from a fan perspective, I like to watch the games, but from a common sense perspective, I think it is terrible.
I mean, why do they not even just do it on Friday night?
I don't know. Honestly,
like, even one more day would be better. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. You're giving them basically 25% more rest.
Yeah. And it just doesn't make any sense. I think you have to keep these primetime games because it gives teams just an opportunity to show what they have. And that's always good for a personal brand, for a team brand. But Thursday night, that is super early when you think about it. I mean, we're having the end of the week on Monday, and we're already turning around on Thursday and playing a game. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, because, I mean, you finish a game on Sunday. You come back, like Monday, there's no chance that anybody's going to practice on Monday, especially, because you've been through the gauntlet on Sunday, and then you're expecting to come by. I think that the way that they could solve this is only start the Thursday night games after teams start having buys. So you have your bye week, and then you could come back and you could play on Thursday. So you have an elongated – you don't have a full 2 weeks to prepare. You have about a week and a half, and then you have another week and a half. I think that would solve a lot of the problems with this, and we'd have competitive matchups. So, guys, as Dion Lewis would say, if you want to be cheap, you get your ass kicked. And that's exactly what the Patriots did in the Music City. 34-10. The Titans routed the Patriots. Guys, is this a fluke, or are we buying into anything out of this game?
So, I want to start with Dion Lewis. Dion Lewis, he ran the ball 20 times and didn't have 60 yards. He didn't do a whole lot in this game. And also...
He got the tough yards, Leighton.
And we'll see who's there in January, but it's not the Titans. But, no, this is an absolute fluke. Probably the biggest fluke of the whole season. In the Belichick and Brady era, in games they've had 0 turnovers and scored fewer than 10 points. That's happened 5 times, including yesterday.
Wow.
That is crazy.
Stat.
Better than that. In the Brady Belichick era, they've lost by 20 or more times, 10 times, including yesterday.
And they played a couple games together.
Yeah. So,
Wow. 10. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So just not their day. Defense had a bad day. Offense had a bad day. Every time they showed the highlights, Brady threw a bad pass, ball through the receiver's hands. But hats off to Mike Vrabel and the Titans. They came out there and straight kicked their ass and out game plan the best game planning coach alive, probably, at his own game.
Well, I mean, we're talking stats, and those were some good ones, Layden. But the 2 games that they've lost are the only games they've had less than 20 carries in a game. And I'm not trying to say anything like mine. Obviously, when you're winning a game, you can run the ball more. But I think that's even more important for the Patriots since Tom Brady is 41. I mean, the dude can barely even run. We saw that on Sunday. He can barely even run without falling down. I mean, this is an old man who is still playing well, but if you're becoming one-dimensional like they did have to become a little bit on Sunday, those receivers aren't open, and I don't think he has the zip on the ball to do it anymore. But I do think I'm not worried about the Patriots. They're going to figure it out. They're the Patriots. But I do like what the Titans have done the last couple of weeks. They're making the offense simpler for Marcus Mariota. They're rolling him out. They're getting his legs involved. And so then when he actually drops back and he has a regular pass, like, receivers are more open. He's having more of an opportunity. And so I like this more from the Titans standpoint. But like Layden said, the Patriots are fine. I'm not worried about the Patriots.
Yeah, but the only thing that makes me start to worry about the Patriots is that it seems like more and more, and especially this might be the 3rd time we brought it up on this show, like, are we worried about the Patriots now? Because it's starting to happen more and more, and they're losing to I wouldn't call the Titans a bad team, but they're losing to average, to maybe below average teams. But guys, I buy into more things about this game than the Titans than what I do about the Patriots. Like, coming into this game, everybody was projecting Josh Gordon to just go absolutely bananas, have his come-to game as a Patriot, because he was going to see a lot of Malcolm Butler. Malcolm Butler showed up in a huge way. The Titans secondary showed up in a huge way, who's just been absolutely gashed this season. They held Brady to 21 of 41 passing. And, for a team that we knew that the front seven was tough, like they could stop the run, but we always questioned whether or not that second half of the secondary would be able to get the job done, and they answered the bell. And I am very happy to see that for the Titans, because it seems like they do actually have a good core group of guys around them. But here's a little stat about Marcus Mariota. I feel like, once, like you said, Brandon, they made the offense a lot more simpler for him, and it seems like instead of saying, Marcus, go out there and win us this game, they basically say, don't go out there, just do not lose this game for us. Like, if you can do that and you can handle that, we are going to win. 240 pass yards. Whenever Marcus Mariota has 240 pass yards, which is a pretty low standard in today's NFL, the Titans are 3-0.
Yeah,
3-0. That is pretty crazy to think about, because those are the only 3 games that he has had 240 pass yards are the games that they are winning. So I'm buying more into the Titans than what I am with the Patriots on this game. So guys, maybe the craziest thing of this sports weekend: 10 weeks, 4 starting quarterbacks, and 1 man rises from the ashes and undefeated. Matt Barkley leads the Bills to 41 points and a win over the Jets. The Bills, they were held below 14 points in 7 of their previous 9. What in the world?
Guys, on this, I saw 10-15 minutes, look up stats, advanced stats, everything. Matt Barkley stats, Jets has a few games, entire season stats. I came to this conclusion: I really don't understand football.
No.
I have no idea. I don't know. Lost for words.
The only thing I could think of is Todd Bowles needs to be fired. I mean, he's lost his team. He has to have. I mean, the Jets literally should not have stepped on the field on Sunday. It was that abysmal. Matt Barkley literally did not have a job a week ago.
No.
Literally didn't have a job, and he tore them up.
For a good reason. I saw him play for the Bears, and it was terrible.
And then LaShawn McCoy ran all over him, like literally dominated him. And he's had a game where he's ran for 10 yards with 10 carries. I mean, this isn't a great running back anymore. Like, he's not. He's just happened to be their best option. And the Bills' line, not that great. I mean, the only thing you can maybe say is the Bills' defense is okay. But like Layden said, this made no sense. People were playing the Jets' defense in fantasy. For heaven's sakes. I mean, it's honestly, my biggest thing is that Bowles is definitely the next head coach to be, which is sad because he has let the Jets, he's led them to play a little bit better than expectations the last couple of years, but he has to have lost this team.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I'm not going to say, that, like, Todd Bowles should be fired just yet. But, like, if you look at the Jets team from a year ago, like, everybody was projecting them to win maybe 1 game. And he exceeded expectations with that team. And then all the team really did in the offseason was add Sam Darnold, a rookie quarterback who, in my opinion, right now in their careers, he's probably worse than Josh McCown, and they just kind of put him out there just so he could get some game experience and, get time playing. So I'm going to pump the brakes on just sending Todd Bowles out the door, but this team looked like the team that we thought they would be last year as the Jets.
They looked bad.
Yeah, it was absolutely terrible. But for the Bills' perspective, Matt Barkley's not going to be the quarterback that you're going to lean on. I don't think that if you're the Bills, you learned anything about your team this week because you knew that you had a solid defense. And the offensive production, I think, was just about as fluky as it could be. But I will say one thing. I think that the left tackle that caught that touchdown is the second heaviest guy to catch a touchdown pass for the Bills this year.
What is
Kelvin?
Kelvin Benjamin.
Big
they rival each other. They are big.
Yeah, I would like to see the stats on that, actually. I think that there's a definite comparison between the two of them.
Oh, yeah? You think there's a public comparison of weight between Kelvin Benjamin, the wide receiver, and the left tackle whose name I do not know?
Yeah, and I would say that their spark score is pretty similar at the wide receiver position.
Do you think that the left tackle has a definite better catch to touchdown ratio?
Absolutely. He probably has the highest in NFL history.
So you're saying you should probably put him out wide for your Buffalo Bills?
Can't get much worse for the Bills because actually the Bills wide receiving core has, I think right now they have 4 more touchdowns than the linemen do catching the ball.
That's not so crazy at the start. You're saying so probably he'll play quarterback. Got any more crazy thoughts for us?
Yes, actually I do.
It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine.
Jimmy Butler, the happiest man in professional sports, got released from prison Tibbs and gets to enjoy life by trusting the process. And I know what all of you out there are thinking. No, Joakim Noah nor Carlos Boozer were involved in this trade. Carmelo Anthony, the only guy who's made a career off of only being able to score to not succeed under D'Antonio. Carmelo Anthony just needs a little bit more time to make things gel in Houston, just like the 2017-2018 Thunder are still on the verge of figuring it out. Thomas Morstead, on pace to make $24,000 per punt this season. Tom Herman, this job at Texas does not guarantee a happy ending. Matt Barkley, greatest Bills quarterback since Jim Kelly. Dez Bryant, let's not forget that he will get a Super Bowl ring for 2 practices as a Saint. Dion Lewis, 20 carries for 57 yards. Won't keep him from talking trash. Baker Mayfield only woke up feeling dangerous twice in his life. One ended with him beating the Falcons. The other ended with him being tackled by a cop. J.D. Martinez, good enough to win 2 Silver Sluggers in the same season, but not good enough to get a single MVP vote. Mitch Trubisky, best quarterback the Bears have ever had. Dario Saric, Robert Covington, you better find a good pair of running shoes. Dario Saric, Robert Covington, how does 40 minutes a game sound? And there's a new book out this week, and it's titled, If You Sit Out Without an Injury, You Must Not Love the Game. And it was written by Le'Veon Bell and published by Twitter. And those have been my thoughts. All right, guys, so let's do a little NFL word association for the Week 9 recap. First on the slate, guys, we'll go with the biggest winner.
James Conner fantasy owners.
I'm going to go with Jason Garrett. He figured out that Zeke is good and fed him the ball in the second half.
Thomas Morstead. It is November 12th, and Thomas Morstead has had 6 punts since October 1st. Biggest loser.
Josh McCown. He had to play.
That's good. Cody Parkey. He forgot that you're supposed to kick it through the uprights and not hit the uprights.
I think you should get double the points if you hit the pole.
The announcer said at the time, I don't know if he could hit the upright 4 times in a row if he tried. And
that would be tough. Yeah, no, I definitely believe him. Biggest loser, I think the Bengals. 51 points to the Saints. They've held one team under 21 points this season. Surprise.
Bell isn't expected to report.
Buccaneers outgained the Redskins by 215 yards and lost. 3 points and 5 red zone attempts will do that to you, though.
Wow.
That is unbelievable. Titans. They have beaten the Patriots, Texans, and Eagles, and lost to the Dolphins and Bills. Biggest disappointment.
The Buffalo Bills head coach, Rob DeSalle, watching Nate Peterman throw more pick sixes.
I'm really just disappointed in myself. Tom Brady literally can no longer run without his legs giving out, and he's still a pro athlete. And I couldn't even sniff college ball.
That's a good one. I'm actually kind of surprisingly going to lighten up on this. It's that Nathan Peterman didn't get to play. Impact injury.
Cooper Kupp.
Figure you guys go that. So I said the Cowboys line. Zach Martin sprains his MCL. We'll have to see if that hurts him in the long run.
I'm going to go with Cooper Kupp. I know that he's supposed to be the number 3 receiver, but I feel like he does a whole lot more to that offense than any third receiver ever in the NFL. WTF moment.
Everybody overlooked the Matt Barkley revenge game.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Did you guys hear about Sean Payton?
No?
He put another bounty on a guy's head?
No. When he was giving a pregame speech, the fire alarm went off in the locker room, and he destroyed it. He took a blunt object, rimmed a hammer, and destroyed it. Several sources have said this is true.
The better question is, why is there a hammer in the locker room?
That is you might just carry a hammer around. You don't know about Sean Payton.
Yeah, we're going to start calling Sean Payton Thor after that one. Do you think that was staged? I mean, this kind of sounds staged to me. Like he might have just had he's like, okay, somebody pull the fire alarm. I'm just going to go beat this thing with a hammer.
I think the Bengals trying to take a page out of the Patriots book and just backfired.
Yeah, because all it did was pump the team up. My WTF moment, it was whenever I realized that the Raiders have 3 times as many draft picks in the first round this year as wins. Biggest overreaction.
Alabama can beat the Jets and the Raiders.
I really don't know if this is an overreaction. It's just crazy. But if a quarterback that literally didn't have a job 7 days ago can come in and do a better job than you, then you shouldn't be a professional at anything.
No, that's not an overreaction. That is a true statement. My overreaction, Joe Flacco will take the field in a wheelchair before he lets Lamar Jackson start for him on Sunday. I think that's going to be a really interesting dynamic to watch into the Ravens, because I feel like there's no way that Joe Flacco's not going to play this week.
Joe Flacco line up at wide receiver? Possibly.
Ooh. He might actually move more if his leg actually hurts, because he's just trying to counterbalance the weight. So we might actually get to see him move at wide receiver. So guys, a little college football talk here. Basically, nothing happened this week that was, extraordinary. Every team that we think has a chance to make the playoff went out and took care of business pretty handily. But the real story this week, Zach Smith. A lot of people are thinking that he's back on the bottle. And if you look at his Twitter, you may have to agree with him. Guys, he went absolutely berserk yesterday. Got on Twitter, called out Tom Herman, called out Tom Herman's wife, tagging them both in multiple tweets, double-digit tweets, posting pictures of conversations with Tom Herman, says that he has more stuff to come from this. Just go ahead and look it up. Just look up Zach Smith's Twitter account. It's not going to be real hard to find because this is becoming a big story. And he actually tagged both Tom Herman and his wife in tweets. Maybe the most bizarre rampage I've ever seen on Twitter. Thoughts?
I mean, I don't really care that he did it because it's hilarious and they're the best Twitter rant I've ever seen in my life. But I mean, he'll probably never get a job ever again. And I'm increasingly curious as to why he decided to do this right now.
Well, supposedly he's doing it right now because he just got confirmation that Tom Herman had to do with leaking the abuse story to the press.
Ah, I see.
Supposedly. And I want to read that.
1 second. What an interesting locker room that would have been in. Going to coaches meetings. I would have loved to be just sitting a fly on the wall watching those guys.
So you had Zach Smith beating his wife. You had Tom Herman evidently drinking G2 in vodka all night long.
Classic.
Then you had Urban Meyer just looking at him being like, this is good. This is fine. We're good.
This'll do.
This'll do. But literally, Zach Smith has lost his fucking mind. Clearly he's not going to get another coaching job. He never will get another coaching job. He's actually said several times he's done with coaching.
I don't know if that's his own choice.
Yeah, it's probably good that he thinks that.
And the fact is that he continues to say that he didn't beat his wife when there's so many people that said he did. Number 3, you are going to compare, cheating on your wife, immoral. Yes, it's immoral. But it's not illegal like beating your wife is. Okay,
yes.
There's definitely a difference. And then every single negative thing he said about him, getting a happy ending at the masseuse spot, he said he was there at every single one. He said he witnessed it, he was a part of it. So you're just showing that you're more of a shitty person. Literally, this made no sense. All it was entertaining. It was one of the most entertaining things I've ever read. And the fact that he used LMAO 7 times, he's just lost his mind.
Yes, I think he's lost his mind. And several times that he said he had visually seen it with his own eyes.
Yes.
How weird is that? I mean, let's just stick on that for a second. What were you doing? I mean, what were you guys up to? And, I think, I don't necessarily have a problem. I mean, he can say whatever he wants, but I think the lowest point of this, and it just shows, and it gives me more confirmation that he probably did beat his wife, like he said, and he is a terrible person, is the fact that he's dragging Tom Herman's wife through the mud with this.
Right.
Like, he's tagging her on Twitter, and that just shows what kind of guy he is to kind of just go out there and, like, you know, obviously this female's had multiple problems, and if the reports are true by him, it is terrible, but it shows that he is not above degrading people even whenever they're down, and it just further makes me believe that everything that has ever been said about Zach Smith is true, and it's probably worse than what we even can think, because if he does this whenever he starts getting a little wound up, just imagine what he would do if you had him right in front of you. Like, if you caged him up, like, he'd be going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And also, clearly, he doesn't think he's ever done anything wrong in his life. But did we see Tom Herman's response on those text messages that he screenshotted?
Cool.
Zach, okay, cool, hook him. With an emoji. Literally, oh my God, if anybody, like, bashes me or anything, that is what I'm sending them.
Hook him.
Okay, cool, hook him.
Yeah, like
Jesus Christ, he body bagged him with 4 words.
Yes, like some, you know, your girlfriend or whatever, like, texts you, you know, the worst way to do it, text you to break up with you. All you say is, okay, cool, hook 'em.
Legendary.
Okay, cool, hook 'em.
Yeah, maybe the worst bit of, like, news Tom Herman's ever had come across his, you know, text messages. Okay, cool, hook 'em. Like, he's in football season, guys. Do not talk to him while he's in football season because he only knows 2 words. So, college football weekend, kind of a rough week for college football. I mean, guys, we have Bama playing the Citadel, Florida playing Idaho, and Auburn plays Liberty. The SEC grind is basically at a screeching halt right now, but we still do get 3 top 25 matchups. A couple of them I think will be very, very interesting for how things are going to play off with the college football playoff. First one we'll get to, probably the game I'm going to get the most long-winded about. Guys, in case you didn't know, I've been huge on Syracuse all season. They've been one of my best friends whenever it comes to betting college football this season. They were ranked number 12 in the country, and they're taking on Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a 10-point favorite. The game will actually be played at Yankee Stadium, so I'm sure Leighton is really hoping that they just completely tear that field apart.
Short porch.
Guys, who do you think? How can they fit a football field out there? I mean, that's a tiny stadium. How can you put a football field?
That's some tiny outfield out there.
Interesting to see. But I'm going to Syracuse.
Ooh.
I love that pick.
Notre Dame, you know, they're definitely a good team, no doubt about it. But Syracuse, like you said, been playing really well all season long. And this game should be a home game for Syracuse because it's still in New York. So, Syracuse.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about the home game possibility there. But there's actually still a toss-up if Ian Brooks is going to be 100% healthy to play. If Ian Brooks doesn't play, I'm putting a lock on Syracuse. And if he does play, this is a toss-up. But Syracuse has led a lot of points, some of them to pretty weak opponents. And Notre Dame's line is rolling. So I'm going to pick Notre Dame, but what's the spread?
10.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Syracuse is at least covering that spread. I mean, there's no way Notre Dame's beating them by 10.
Yeah, no, I agree. Syracuse hasn't lost by 10 all season. Their only losses came from basically a great comeback by Clemson. They had Clemson dead in the rights. They were up by Clemson by 10 with just 11 minutes to go, and it took a 4th down conversion on the game-winning drive for Syracuse to be able to find a way to win this game and score the game-winning touchdown with, I think it was 46 seconds or around 50 seconds left on the clock. So this team I feel like this team is almost blowout proof. I've rode with them all season, guys. Eric Dungey is one of my favorite players to watch. He's already passed for 2,100 yards, and he's rushed for 600 yards. And he's had some very, very tough games, kind of been through the gauntlet, and he still just continues to perform. A few stats that really are eye-opening to me whenever you talk about Syracuse, because at first, you know, if you haven't been following Syracuse this year, you might not realize they're an offensive powerhouse. They're number 7 in the country in yards per game, 482. That's up there right between Washington State and West Virginia, and everybody buys into those offenses. They're number 5 in the NCAA and third down defense. Guys, they are above Alabama and Michigan. Teams are only completing, I think, 26% of their third down plays against Syracuse. They're number 2 in turnovers behind Utah State, number 5 in the country in turnover margin, tied with LSU. Notre Dame is 50th, and more red zone scores than anyone in the country. In fact, they have 10 more red zone scores than any team in the country that's not named Texas Tech. And the thing that I would kind of watch out for, too, is that, Syracuse is a really, really good team at being able to flip the field off of a punt. 15 yards per punt return, which is 11th in the country, and 2 punt return touchdowns this season, which is second in the country. So Syracuse, I think at almost every level of the ball, maybe I would give the offensive line edge to Notre Dame. I mean, they're just a factory with pumping out first-round talent, so it might make things a little harder for Syracuse to be able to get off the field on third down. I don't think that they're going to hold Notre Dame to like a 26% on third down, but that is something to look for, because even if Notre Dame, their offense doesn't succeed and they're only at like a 40% clip on third downs, it's going to make things very, very tough, especially against a high-powered offense like Syracuse. I expect Syracuse to not only cover the spread, but win this game. And I am even going to go as far to say that I think that Syracuse has the firepower to put a big, big stamp on this win. I'm very, very bummed that it's not in the Carrier Dome. It's just something weird about Syracuse and that dome where nobody else has the experience of playing anything like that. So it will be outside. The offense may be slowed down a hair because it is going to be cold there. But I think Syracuse wins this game and wins this game in convincing fashion on the arms and legs of Eric Dungey, who will have a huge, huge performance. And I cannot be more excited for this game. I think it's going to be phenomenal. So guys, Iowa State at Texas. Iowa State is 18th. Texas is 13th. Texas is a 3.5-point favorite. Where are you leaning here?
What's this game's over under? Do you know?
I'm not 100% sure. I haven't looked at it.
I bet it's a lot. I'm going to go over, wherever it is, and take Texas at home.
Yeah, I'm with you with the over, but I'm actually going to go with Iowa State. As we've learned, they just beat big teams. That's what they do. But I think Sam Ehlinger is going to continue to have his way. He's actually having a great season. But every single game comes down to the last possession for this Texas team. It doesn't matter who they're playing. They play up and down to their opponent. I'm going to pick Iowa State.
I'm actually going to go with Iowa State as well. And you guys know how the committee came out before and said, hey, if a team's starting quarterback goes down and they drop a game, we're going to take that into consideration. We want to see this team on a full healthy roster. Well, you look at a guy like Brock Purdy. He came in halfway through this, or a couple games in. He's 5-0 as Iowa State starting quarterback. Guys, he's beaten West Virginia, Oklahoma State, and Texas Tech. He is one of the best quarterbacks that I have seen at Iowa State. Who was the last guy that was really good there? Name slipped in my mind.
Quarterbacks from Iowa State?
Yeah, he was phenomenal. He played in the NFL for a while. He was a scrambling quarterback. Leighton, look that up for me real quick, because whenever the name comes, he played in the NFL for a while, and he had one of the best highlight clips I've ever seen at Iowa State. And it's a household name, so you guys are going to know it whenever. It might be Seneca Wallace, actually.
It was Seneca Wallace.
Hakeem Butler. Guys, he is a legitimate wide receiver that's going to be catching. He's probably going to go for 1,000 yards in the NFL at some point in his life. He is that good of a wide receiver. Texas has phenomenal receivers. Yet again, we get to see a Big 12 matchup with great wide receivers. I give the edge to Iowa State, though. I'm buying into this Brock Purdy. I mean, he's 5-0. He's already won big games. Sam Ehlinger, the bubble has to burst for him at some point. He has thrown probably 5 balls that I've seen that could have easily been intercepted that his wide receivers have bailed him out on. And he has already set the record for most consecutive passes without an interception in Big 12 history. I think this week he goes out against a tough defense in Iowa State. Might be the best defense in the Big 12. And he not only throws 1 interception, but I think he's going to throw 2, and Iowa State gets the win. Number 19, Cincy at number 11, UCF. Maybe UCF's biggest test of the season. And in a surprising twist of events, College Game Day will actually be there instead of Yankee Stadium. So, guys, who's going to win this game?
UCF. I'm glad to see College Game Day has good taste and going to that crap hole, Yankee Stadium.
I just don't think Cincinnati's very good. I mean, I just don't think that whole conference is very good besides UCF. I think they're going to win. I will give you some credit, Drake. I do think the Pitt win is looking better, but even Pitt lost against one to win North Carolina. So, I mean, I don't think this will optimally do anything for them in the standings, especially how the college football playoff rankings have been, coming out lately.
Yeah, Cincy, they're a very good, they're a pretty good team. Like, I'm not going to say that they're like a top 10 team in the country or anything like that, but they're tough. I mean, they played it, their only loss this season was Temple. They fumbled the ball twice within, on the bad side of the field. Temple got up on them early, 10-0. But after that, I don't know if Temple crossed midfield until the last 2 drives of the game to ultimately send the game into overtime. That Temple ended up winning. So we could have really been sitting here talking about 2 undefeated teams going head to head. But I just think UCF is by far the best team in this conference. I think that they're the best team that's not in a Power 5 conference, and I think that UCF, they are a legitimate football team. We've seen it over 22 straight games, so I'm all in on UCF. I think they would not only win this game but cover the spread, especially since it's a home game. Guys, any top 25 teams that we could see losing this week? Be right. The Volunteers pulled it off last week.
They did, finally.
Yeah, finally they won them one. They beat a good team, which I'm not sure Kentucky is. But latency, who is your upset of the week?
I actually kind of like Nebraska over Michigan State. It's at Nebraska, and Michigan State sucks. Nebraska's a whole lot better the latter half of that Ohio State game a few weeks ago, so Nebraska isn't a bad pick.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go Arizona tops Washington State. Arizona just seems like I thought they were going to be a lot better this year. Tate, their quarterback, he can make a lot of plays, and I'm not buying into Washington State's hype, so I'm going Arizona over Washington State.
That's actually the one that I'm looking at too, Brandon. It kind of scares me. Khalil Tate's finally gotten grasp of the offense. It seemed like Kevin Sumlin was very, very hesitant to let Khalil Tate run, and he forced him to be a pocket passer. And early in the season, it was basically a recipe for failure. Now it's looking really, really good with Khalil Tate throwing the ball downfield. I haven't looked at the spread of that game, but I imagine it's going to be a lot closer than what people think, and I will not be surprised at all. Brandon, excellent pick on that. I think Arizona may topple Washington State, unfortunately, because I love Mike Leach. Guys, lock bet of the week. What bet are we all on this week?
I may not lock, but I really like Syracuse plus 10 against Notre Dame at Petco home game.
I'm actually going to lock that one in. I am all in on that Syracuse game because, Syracuse is 2 losses, guys. 1 in overtime and 1 on a last-second drive by Clemson. I think that even if Syracuse does lose this game, Notre Dame has played enough close games to make me believe that there's no way they're going to cover that 10-point spread, especially since they couldn't even – they pushed on the 10-point spread against Northwestern.
I'm actually going to go Texas Tech, -4.5. Against, I already forgot their opponent, Kansas State. Kansas State's not very good. I think Texas Tech will score a lot of points.
I actually like that one too. Texas Tech is actually a really good team. They proved it last week. So guys, let's play a little dart.
Pew, 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 pew. We're playing darts, baby.
Latency, what is our game this week?
We just have a new game this week, guys. Just not telling you about it, but it's called Top 5. So here the game goes. I have a list of items, all from the same category of things, and we gotta say would they be in our top 5 of the category of items. For starters,
Oh, okay.
So this week, we'll start off with a little easy one to kind of get the feel for it. Pizza toppings.
All right, easy.
Okay? Just,
Let's go.
is this item time for pizza toppings? Alright.
Okay. Latency, since it's your game, your throw.
Alright. We have a 8. Anchovies. Definitely.
This one's easy for me.
Definitely not my top 5. Not even in the top 100. I don't like anchovies
my
on
God.
pizza.
I literally could think of things that were just wild as hell that would be above anchovies. It's literally a salty, stinky mess.
Yeah, nope. Do not like, nope.
Hell no, but I know, I see Drake's grin. I know Drake. I've known Drake since we were in kindergarten. I know where this is going, and it's going to disgust you.
I absolutely love anchovies, guys. If you've never had anchovies on a pizza, it will instantly become your number one topping. It is my number one topping. You garnish the anchovies, you can go anchovy and bacon. Makes for a very, very good flavor. And if you like the sweet and salty flavor, definitely go with pineapple and anchovies. A lot of people that I've actually had try that liked it, and they said before they even ate it, no, I don't like anchovies. Guys, if you don't like anchovies, it's because you've never tried them. If you don't like anchovies, you just don't like salt, because all anchovies do is taste like salt.
I could just add salt to my pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can, but you could also go with the little fishies with the anchovies. So I am all in on anchovies. I think anchovies is my I know anchovies is my number one topping. It is the topping I get the most. I'm all in on anchovies, definite yes. Top 5, top 1.
Okay. All right. So just like anchovies.
Nobody else does.
All right, so I'm outvoted?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, B-Reich, your throw.
We have a 11 eggs. More of a breakfast pizza type of topping.
Yeah.
No,
see,
it's not just breakfast pizza.
Drinking some crazy ass pizza.
I like everything breakfast. I love eggs. I eat eggs almost daily, but something about breakfast pizza, like, it's just okay to me. It's very average.
Really?
It's definitely nowhere near the top 5. Doesn't sniff it. It's just, I need that sauce. I need some type of sauce, and it feels like a lot of breakfast pizza. I don't know what it is about it. It's just so underwhelming to me. And for that main reason, just because I really want to hear what Drake has with eggs without breakfast pizza. But eggs are definitely outside my top 10. I mean, my top 5, I'm sorry. Yeah.
See, I love breakfast pizza. Like,
a lot of people do. I don't get it.
I love breakfast pizza. It's so good.
Casey's breakfast pizza is the best thing in the world.
Oh, for sure.
Average. It's average.
Eggs in the top 5. To be honest with you, I didn't think of eggs as a topping at all really until I had to make 20 freaking toppings. So that's what I was thinking. Where did I actually put eggs? And eggs just sniffed in the top 5. It really is.
You didn't even think of them as a topping, and they're sniffing your top 5.
Well, because you never think, okay, eggs, pizza topping. Because you order from restaurants, you can't even get egg.
Yeah, I know.
I like
yesterday
egg.
you were all about getting a breakfast pizza last night watching the Sunday night game. I'm going to tell you guys this. So whenever you guys get the pizza out of the box, like whenever you are making a pizza at your house, Jack's Pizza, DiGiorno, whatever you like, you throw it down. I love to take an egg, crack it, and just put it on there. You don't whip it up. You don't have to scramble it or anything like that. You just crack the egg, lay it on the middle, and guys, it is absolutely delicious. If you like an egg on your burger, you will love an egg on your pizza. You have to try it. And I would do it first. Like, sometimes there are restaurants that offer that kind of, I'll call it a delicacy because it really is. But if you're just feeling wild one night, you got you a pizza in the fridge or in the freezer, and you have you some eggs in the fridge, just go ahead and crack an egg on there, throw it in there, cook it like you normally do, put some jalapenos on there. It makes for an excellent, excellent pizza, especially if it starts off with pepperoni.
You know what? I love a good egg on my burger, so I'm actually going to abstain from this vote because I need to try an egg on my regular pizza so I can even actually vote on this. So I'm actually abstaining from the vote.
I'm going to say outside my top 5, but it sniffs it. I want to try it on I want to do Jake's idea.
Yeah, you don't get it enough, so I can't say that it's a top 5 just because I never really order it, because nobody really offers it. But it's awesome on breakfast pizza. And then, like I said, if you make a pizza at your house, make sure you have some jalapenos and an egg. Pop it right in the middle. I'm going to say it's on the outside of looking in. I'm going to have to go with a no because I don't think it's in the top 5, but it's up there pretty close.
All right. Jake, your throw. We have a 3. Ham or Canadian bacon.
Okay. Canadian bacon and or ham. Obviously, it's the same thing. Ham is very good on a pizza. A lot of people like the pineapple ham. I like to substitute the ham for the anchovies. I love ham, but I don't really order it on a pizza. It's not one of the things that I'll go out and really look for getting. I think ham is best whenever there's like 8 toppings on there. I don't think ham can stand alone as a topping for itself. So I'm going with a no.
Yeah.
See that? Go ahead.
This is definitely my top 5. It falls in the 4 or 5 range. Later top 5, it's in the top 5 for sure. This is when I was really young. I've always been a huge fan of Canadian bacon or ham on a pizza.
See,
Do you
mine
like
is
ham by itself, though? Like ham as its only topping? Do you think it can stand alone?
No, it's a good complimenter. Honestly, I think I've ever had just by itself ham pizza.
But to be fair, I don't think a lot of toppings can stand alone for my taste. Like, some of my favorite toppings are spinach, mushroom, green peppers. Ham, I think, is number 5. Like, I really like all those in there. It probably goes sausage, pepperoni and ham are probably a toss-up for me. So I'm going to actually go with ham as yes. And Leighton, I'm sorry that you gave a disgusting look for spinach, mushroom, and green peppers, but open up your taste buds and accept the flavor, my man.
Mushrooms are disgusting. Mushrooms are the grossest thing ever.
Well, yeah, that's actually that's a big toss-up for a lot of people. It's that texture thing, but I love it.
Yeah.
I love anything on pizza, but unfortunately,
That's
ham's not in my top 5. So Leighton, just a little recap.
Alright, so anchovies are not a top 5 favorite food on Sauce to the Side podcast. Nor is egg. However, ham qualified for the top 5.
Okay. I actually like that game, Leighton, so we'll keep that one around.
And next week, Drake,
hopefully-
you're going to love this. Next week, we have your favorite game of the year. Either delete Thanksgiving.
I love it. I'm already looking forward to Thanksgiving. I actually look forward to Thanksgiving the day after the previous Thanksgiving. So, guys, Chris Harris interview. He is a fantasy football wizard. He is an expert. He sits down with Fletch. I hope you guys enjoy this interview.
All right, Dippers. So we have a very special guest today, and that is Christopher Harris of the Harris Football Podcast. Chris, tell us a little about you, kind of what you do, and where our listeners can find you.
A little bit about me. Let's see. I have a podcast. You can find everything that I do at harrisfootball.com. I used to work for ESPN for 8 years. I've been doing my own. This is the 4th season, a little more than 3 years that I've been doing my own show. And people who, I think you can usually spot the people who like the Harris Football Podcast by the possum t-shirts and the affinity for trash bags.
Yeah. I tell you what, one thing that you didn't mention about where they could find you is the YouTube channel, and I think
right.
You brought that up just this year, and that's one thing I really like about the show now, because it's not just a simulcast; it's supplementary to the show, and I really like that. So.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it is new this year. It's slowly killing me. It's choking the life out of me, just very gradually. It's like an extra 2 hours a day after the podcast. But yeah, that's the big thing, is that a lot of the stuff you find on YouTube that's podcast related is essentially just them doing the podcast, but with video on them, which is fine. But we decided why. We decided that doesn't really, you could just listen to podcasts. What's the point? So I basically, so my shtick with covering the NFL is that I watch all the games on film. And so since I'm watching anyway, and since I'm making copious notes for the purposes of a 5-day-a-week podcast, it would be cool to break down some of the players who are, I've taken note of and who I have interesting plays to show. So that's what we do. But it's not me warbling my pork. It's mostly breaking down game film.
Yeah, all right. That's very cool. Let's just go ahead and get started into the meat of it here. Let's start with the top 3 fantasy duds in your mind this year. But we're going to go ahead and exclude Le'Veon, and we're going to exclude Leonard Fournette from that list, because I feel like those would be too easy of picks.
Let's see. I'm not the best at saying here's the full universe of players and tell me the 3 worst. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'll come up with the 3 worst. I mean, we now know we're recording this before week 10, and we now know Gronk isn't going to play again, and so that feels like anybody who spent a pick on Gronk is probably pretty bummed. So we'll throw him in there. I mean, Derrick Henry. Ugh, I mean, he was a 3rd round pick. That's been a kind of a disaster. Alex Collins was picked right around there. He's been gross. He's been a disaster. Jordan Reed. How about Jordan Reed? The one guy, the one thing that was supposed to go wrong with Jordan Reed was, well, if he stays healthy, I mean, he's awesome. He could threaten to be the number 1 overall tight end, and the only thing he's done is be healthy. So I'd put him in that. Maybe he gets to be number 4 on that list.
Yeah, I agree. People said, it's just contingent on the health. If he has the health, he's going to be there. He's going to get you points, no problem. But you mentioned Derrick Henry, and my friends and I, we always kind of joke about Derrick Henry. How could a guy that big and that strong run so vertical and so seemingly soft? And That's just one thing that perplexes me beyond all belief every year, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, I have a new nickname for him on the podcast. Came from Booger McFarland on the Monday night game this past week. He's the Tiptoe Burglar.
I hadn't heard that yet. I've been struggling to listen this week, but that's really funny, actually.
Yeah, he's the Tiptoe Burglar, and that nickname was Deion Sanders' nickname for Sean Alexander back in the day when we were all a little younger, and Sean Alexander was awesome for fantasy, but he didn't really like to hit people. And then actually, I think it was Warren Sapp who stole the name Tiptoe Burglar for Brandon Jacobs. And I have to say, Derrick Henry's starting to remind me something of Brandon Jacobs, like this huge dude who, do you really like contact? And so Booger McFarland, I guess, who was a teammate of Warren Sapp's at one point, probably stole it from him. So yeah, we got Tiptoe Burglar.
Yeah, that's a good one. Let's go to the top 3 fantasy surprises, positive surprises, though. We won't do negative anymore.
I mean, I'm not allowed to say Mahomes, am I? I mean, that seems like... All right, I'll say Mahomes is one of them.
Yeah,
it's pretty easy.
He got drafted late in my league, and I was looking at that pick. I'm like, I don't really know if he's going to do a whole lot this year, and I couldn't have been more wrong. So,
yeah, I'd say Mahomes would be probably everybody's first. It's probably shouldn't even qualify. James White.
Yeah.
On pace for 18 touchdowns. That occurs to me as it probably isn't going to keep up. But that's certainly a big surprise. I don't know. We did the biggest surprises on the podcast on Friday. That was our topic with me and cousin Josh, and I think those might have been the only. I don't think I have other positives on there. I'll say this surprise. One surprise I have is just sort of a meta commentary about fantasy, which is. Everybody seems to have immediately come to the conclusion that quarterbacks don't matter. As much as I just said Pat Mahomes has been awesome and is our number one surprise of the year, everybody's number one surprise of the year. It strikes me that everybody now is sort of agreeing, but yeah, it doesn't matter because they all scored 23 points, so trade them away. Like they have in a standard league where you're only starting one quarterback, they have no value. Like I was having debates on my show in August with people who were like defending Deshaun Watson as a 3rd round pick, and I thought I had a problem with that anyway because he wasn't going to be the same right away because of the injury. But I had a problem just more theoretically with it. Was just why would you take any quarterback that high when they're kind of all the same? And it's this passing league where even Andy Dalton can score 20 plus points every week. The extent to which that seems to have been metabolized into the fantasy world right now, it seems crazy. It happened overnight.
Yeah. You make a good point with James White. He is a huge surprise, and he's really kind of a surprise with the points that he gives you each week, because there are some weeks where it's like he'll carry the ball 2 times or fewer, but then he'll walk away with 14, 15 fantasy points. It's like, how does that happen? Each week he surprises me. He's a surprise unto himself, really. How it happens is he scores a touchdown. he's got 10 touchdowns or 9 or 10 touchdowns. I mean, how it happens is he keeps scoring. It's a hard. I always say it on my show. Hard way to live. Hard way to live. Touching it 10 or 11 times and being an RB1. Which is why I would sell him. If I had any faith that Sony Michel was going to stay healthy the whole year, I would sell James White like crazy. Yeah, so let's go to some real football now. We'll just break down the AFC real quick. We'll do a quick and a dirty run through of the divisions. We have New England leading the AFC East, Pittsburgh in the AFC North, Houston and the AFC South, and then Kansas City out west. Do you feel like all these teams are right now the favorites to win their division, or do you think there's going to be a shakeup between one of those? Maybe Pittsburgh or Houston doesn't win their division. What are you thinking there? I think of those 4 teams, I think Houston's at best mediocre and possibly bad. Yeah. The question is just, can Jacksonville get its act together? And we're going to know some of the answer to that in this Colts game on Sunday. My feeling is Houston has a big old lead. They're probably going to win that division, but I don't think they're good. And they easily could have lost. I mean, they have this 6-game winning streak right now. They easily could have lost probably 4 of them. Mm-hmm. Probably should have lost 3 of them. I mean, they should have lost to Denver. They should have lost to Dallas. They should have lost to Buffalo. I think they're not good, but they have a lot of talent, and they have peaks and valleys on their roster. They have a lot of superstars. They have a lot of names that we know, and then they have a lot of not very good players who kind of fill in the rest of the roster.
So they're the fraud. They're the tomato can. They're the one that's going to come to New England in the divisional round and lose by 100 points, because that happens every year. But the others feel like they're the best teams in that division. So the Chargers are good and hot, and I wouldn't be entirely shocked to see the Chargers go to Kansas City. I think they lost. Kansas City came to L.A. and won in Week 1, I think. So I wouldn't be entirely shocked if the Chargers went to Kansas City and won and then made that division. I do think Kansas City's better, though.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? To your point there, I almost put down Kansas City or the Chargers there, and I thought about even including a lock for the wild card just to put the Chargers in there. But Houston, they kind of have this brand or characterization about them that they kind of like make you play ugly, and then when you play ugly, they can kind of beat you at that game because they do it so often. And so I agree with you. I think Houston might be the least talented of all those teams we listed, and them losing in a divisional round game to New England or some other team in the postseason wouldn't surprise me at all.
It's New England. It's the Tennessee game from last year. It's New England. New England every single year, the divisional round at home, they get the team where it's like, are they in the playoffs? Oh, okay. Interesting. I mean, I like to say, to say the Texans are that team who can beat you by winning ugly is just a very nice way of saying they suck. They suck, and they do. They suck.
So let's take it over to the NFC East then, or NFC East. Well, we can start with the NFC East. We got Washington leading that division. We got the Bears up north, New Orleans in the south, and the Rams in the out west. I don't think New Orleans or the Rams are a surprise to anybody. I think Chicago is a bit of a surprise there in the north, and then out east with Washington. That whole division seemed to be kind of up in the air before the season, in my opinion. So, out of all those teams, which team do you feel like is the one that would flame out and not win their division?
Washington. I think it's Washington. I probably wouldn't have said Washington, and it's such an easy thing to say. It's such a talking head thing to say, well, they have injuries now, so that's just going to be my fail-safe. But just when you lose 60% of your offensive line in 1 week, it just feels like they're destined. No, maybe not this week. Actually, I'll put Washington and Chicago in equal. I don't think either one wins those divisions. And to be honest, I don't think either one makes the playoffs, which how's that for controversial? Both are 5-3. I say no, neither Washington nor Chicago makes the playoffs. I say Philadelphia, Minnesota restore a little bit of order. I mean, Minnesota's already only a half game in back of Chicago as it is. Like if Chicago loses to Detroit this week, they're no longer in first place. Who knows? And have been waiting for the Eagles to be better. If they don't beat Dallas this week, I think Washington wins that division. But I think they beat Dallas this week. So I don't think the Eagles are going to the Super Bowl. I don't think the Eagles are on the same level as the Saints or the Rams. Mm-hmm. But I think they're probably better than Washington as currently constituted.
Yeah, the Vikings and the Eagles to me right now are that team that you just kind of like, you had this wait and see mentality for, and I'm just afraid that we're going to be kind of waiting and seeing too long, if that makes sense. Like, I look at Minnesota's roster, I'm like, man, they are super talented now, and then I look at Philadelphia's roster, I'm like, they got a lot of talent too. It's just, can they get it all to click together, I guess is the question.
I mean, Minnesota's 5-3-1. So, and well, they alternately should have won and lost the tie against Green Bay, right? That was kicker malfunction on both sides. But Philadelphia being 4-4 is more alarming to me than Minnesota being 5-3-1.
Yeah.
And the way Philadelphia played. But remember, I mean, Carson Wentz wasn't exactly himself, and Nick Foles is not playing. Like there was a whole September there that was sort of let's get revved up. And the last time we saw Philadelphia in that London game, it wasn't a dominant win. I don't think you'd say. But they sure played better, and I'll say in the NFC Carolina's terrible game on Thursday night notwithstanding, I would say I like 4 teams in the NFC above Philadelphia right now, but Washington is not one of them.
Okay, I hear you. I don't know. Maybe the loss to the Buffalo Bills for the Minnesota Vikings is just like sticking in my head more than it should, because 5-3-1 really isn't bad, but when I think about losing to the Buffalo Bills in the fashion that they
at
did,
home,
it's just one of those things that's hard to like look past and get over. Let's go ahead and move on to it's kind of a segment on your show. You talk about the game film, you break down game film from over the weekend, And this might be kind of a broad question, and it might kind of tie into the fantasy surprises. But
Sure.
you look at game film each week, and that's one thing I really like about you. You watch the game film from all the weekends, and you break it up into 2 days. From comparing last year to this year, who's kind of one player in your mind that you feel like has improved the most after watching the game film like this? I guess whose game tape has improved from last year to this year the most?
You're right. That's kind of a broad question, but I can hang with you. I don't know if I'm going to come up with the most, right? But I certainly, as I vamp and run through my head as I talk, somebody who fits that bill.
I'm sure you got some candidates at least, right?
I mean, Adrian Peterson.
Yeah. Okay.
He was cooked last year. He really didn't look good at all, and I expected nothing. I call him the baby horse giraffe, right, on the show. And he's been pretty great. He's been phenomenal, really. Like he doesn't. It's not old Adrian Peterson. Like if he was just named something else, we would go, who's that guy? He's pretty good.
Right.
Like he's not a Hall of Famer right now, and he doesn't really have that electric. As soon as he sees a crease, he's gone in just chews up the entire field in 3 strides the way he used to. We get so blinkered with what we saw this past week and maybe James Conner is great at football, maybe. And then you watch what Adrian Peterson used to look like and you go, okay, well, I remember that's what great at football actually looks like. But Peterson does still have crazy great vision. It's like he's a chess player who sees a bunch of moves in advance, and he just like cuts per run. The number of times he cuts effectively in a given run, I don't have a number because I'm not keeping track of that, and I don't think anybody is. But it has changed a lot from last year. I thought, with the Saints, he looked completely done. With the Cardinals, he had one huge game and then looked completely done. And he has looked far from done. He has looked pretty darn good this year, and I'd say that's another one I probably could have put under surprises, where I just never ever would have seen him, let alone having some big games numerically, statistically. That can happen to a lot of running backs, but just the way he's looked like one of the 10 or 15 best running backs in the league.
I agree. There are times he moves laterally and you're like, wow, I can't believe he's that old, and I can't believe that he can still do that, especially when you talk about from last year to this year. I mean, it's and then somebody drafted him in like the 9th or 10th round in our league, and I thought, like, man, like that might turn out, but I mean, I wouldn't have. In my mind at that time, I'm like, I wouldn't have wasted a pick on it. I considered it a waste at that time, but he's really, really kind of shocked me this year, and so I think that's a pretty good candidate to have.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you think about it this way, if Darius Geis doesn't tear his ACL, Adrian Peterson's either not playing or playing somewhere else because he signed late. Right, and then he signed, and we were like, well, we'll see. He looked pretty bad last year. It might be Samaje Perine, and then it was like, oh no, it's not going to be. Okay, no, it's not going to be Samaje Perine.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you about. I'm sure there are plenty of fantasy people out there who are kind of curious about running back situations. And one thing on your show you always talk about, you can't legislate usage. So let's go ahead and talk real quick here. Just 2 or 3 running back situations, and let's start with the Jaguars. Let's talk about there. They have Hyde, Yeldon, and then Fournette expected to come back. What do you make of that moving forward for the rest of the season?
It kind of does. We talk about category 2 on my show about the things that we just aren't going to know that are like health related or interpersonal stuff that's behind the scene that we never get to hear about, or knowledge of the playbook stuff. Right. I would like to believe that it's Leonard Fournette's gig, and that Carlos Hyde supplements, but that Fournette would be the one for fantasy purposes that you'd want to invest in, that he would have at least a 2/3 share of that workload. But I don't know about the hamstring. I just don't know. Is it ever going to be right? Like, what was the idea behind? It's not like they paid a ton for Carlos Hyde, but what was the idea behind trading for Carlos Hyde? Was it to say we're gonna split it 50-50 because we think Hyde's a pretty good player and we need Fournette healthy for the playoffs? Although you're not in the exactly playoff position right now. Right. Or was this entirely about let's just put him on the bench and let's see, and if Fournette's okay, he's our guy. Like, I think Carlos Hyde's a pretty good player. I think Leonard Fournette's a better version of the same player. They're both power backs. Neither one is like massively laterally quick, but they're not slow, and both of them have pretty decent top end speed. Fournette's is probably better. And like Fournette's bigger. So like I think Fournette's probably a better player, but yeah, we're gonna get a lot of those questions answered for us this week.
Yeah. Let's move on to a backfield that you and cousin Josh have talked about a little bit. And that's the Bears backfield with Jordan Howard and Tariq Cohen. What do you make of that in the coming weeks here? Because it looks like Howard's had a few good games, and then before that it was Tariq Cohen. What's your opinion on it? I guess.
Right. Well, you're right. You're exactly right. Like Howard was big last week because they're killing Buffalo.
Yeah.
And they can afford to run, but in situations where they're trailing against the Patriots, where's Jordan Howard? So, if you feel like, if the listener feels like they know exactly how a Bears game is going to go on the scoreboard, you probably can do a pretty good job of predicting which running back you want. Yeah. It has struck me, you've heard me say this a bunch, it has struck me that the most, I guess, appropriate for the Bears being the new Rams or the new Chiefs or whatever, like the Bears being the kind of the wide open, new age mobile quarterback, throw a lot of receivers and flood zones and just have a lot. Well, that guy is Tariq Cohen.
Yeah.
So the play caller that Matt Nagy seems most comfortable being, it would be Tariq Cohen because he's more versatile and he's a pretty good receiver and he's scary as hell in the open field, but he's simply got a cap on the number of – he's got the James White cap. It's just he's not going to carry it that much because if he does, he'll either get flattened or die. Like he's just tiny. I mean, he's much smaller than James White. He's tiny.
Yeah.
And, Jordan Howard just isn't that good. He's just sort of a big guy. That's what he is. He's a big Mongo, like doesn't really – he sees it fine, but he doesn't have any lateral agility, and – I'm just not that psyched about Jordan Howard as a player. But that there are situations where A, they get stopped on the one or they get pass interfered with in the end zone, and Jordan Howard's got a great chance of getting you a touchdown.
Yeah.
And then B, if they do have a lead, you tend to get more of a Jordan Howard game and a little less of a Tariq Cohen game. So, I think if I had to choose right now, who do I want to own? I would probably want to own Tariq Cohen, but I don't think it's going to be clean every week.
Yeah. It definitely won't be clean. There was one time you were talking about Jordan Howard, and I can't remember how many weeks ago it was now, but you said it was his birthright that he gets like goal line carries, just being a 6 foot, 230-pound running back, and that was really funny to me. Let's move on to some of the more recent trades we've had and talk about those kind of fantasy implications. And let's just start with Amari Cooper. There are kind of two sides to all of these. With Amari Cooper going to Dallas now, what does that mean for Amari Cooper? And what does that mean for maybe Jordy Nelson, Martavis Bryant, and Derek Carr for fantasy?
Yeah, I mean, well, we already got to see a game of each, and let's just say the Raiders game wasn't very good for the Raiders. But probably there's value right now. If you could pick up Raiders or trade for Raiders for nothing, probably there's value because what do I always say? Things are never as good or as bad as they seem. Like they're not going to be that bad every single game. That was embarrassing. And they were, I'm sure, embarrassed. I thought Doug Martin looked okay. We're talking about the Thursday night game against the 49ers from like a week and a half ago. Doug Martin was okay and everyone else was bad. And Doug Martin, I think, is not a terrible waiver wire kind of flex, but there could be times where just the run game becomes irrelevant if the Raiders are going to get their going to get their hats handed to them pretty regularly. So Derek Carr already is not somebody you're starting for fantasy outside of a pretty deep 2-quarterback league, and I don't see any receiver having a natural birthright to any extra action. Like when Seth Roberts and Brandon LaFell are benefiting more than Martavis Bryant and Jordy Nelson, let's just maybe not own any of them. I think it's fair to say. And then for Amari Cooper, I mean, I liked what ESPN did in the coverage of that Monday night game against Tennessee because they really had a camera on Cooper a lot. And people got to see what I've been saying about Cooper for years, which is, trust me, guys, he's really good at getting open. He's really quick. You saw, if you watched that game on replay, they would show the replay of Cooper like he's open, right? And so I think there's some hope there. He scores the touchdown. He actually gets another end zone target and it gets intercepted. There's some upside there. And I started ranking Cooper a little higher after seeing that Tennessee game. But the Cowboy offense is really, does Dak Prescott take enough shots? Is that offense aggressive enough? It seems like run, pass, punt. So I'm not super excited, but I'd say after watching Cooper for one game, I now feel like it's defensible to say he's my wide receiver 3 for maybe some upside if that offense gets stacked together.
Yeah. pretty fair assessment, I think. Let's do the same thing with Golden Tate now. He's in Philadelphia. What does this mean for maybe Zach Ertz and Alshon? But then at the same time, what does this mean for Galladay and Marvin Jones, maybe?
Right. Well, so I can talk about the Detroit one first because, again, we've seen it, whereas the Eagles were on bye again. So I don't really know yet for the Eagles, but I can say, that was a disastrous Lions game against the Vikings, and Matthew Stafford got sacked 10 times, and crazily enough, they kind of had a chance. They were down less than a touchdown, third quarter. They had a chance. They're inside the Minnesota 20, I think, maybe. Or maybe not. Maybe it was like inside the 30. And Kenny Galladay, who I've been, hyping mercilessly even before the trade, I think the call was for him for a wide receiver screen. He just never turned around. I think he just blew his assignment, and Stafford took a sack, and they missed the field goal, and then the floodgates opened. So that wasn't awesome. But I think it's also one game, and I also think the Lions' offensive line had been good, had been a story, people had been talking about, you don't like these guys enough, don't you realize how good this line is now? So I'm not willing to throw everything away right now. I think both Marvin Jones and Kenny Galladay get a little bump. I'll probably put Jones ahead of Galladay right now, but I love Galladay and would love to see him sort of take the lead there. And then for the Eagles, I don't know. I'm just speculating with everybody else. You guys can speculate as best as I can. I think he's a really good player. I think it probably crushes Nelson Aguilar. And then, but I wouldn't say that, and therefore that means Zach Ertz and Alshon Jeffrey take the pipe. Like, no, I think probably there's enough room there for everybody. There's 40 pass attempts in any given game, and Tate already was kind of in that safe but not that exciting fantasy world of wide receivers, and PPR a little better, right? And I think he probably roughly, maybe a little downgrade, but I think he roughly stays the same.
And let's do it one more receiver, third time's a charm. Let's talk about Demaryius Thomas going to the Houston Texans. Kind of, what does this do for Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins, and then also what does it do for Emmanuel Sanders and I guess maybe Denver as well?
Right, Cortland Sutton. Yeah, I mean, so my thing is just never going to be, I know for sure that with a certainty from the point of the trade forward that there's a one-to-one relationship, and it immediately means less work for DeAndre Hopkins or it's better for Deshaun Watson. Like, I don't think it plays out that way. I think especially since we're talking about receivers changing teams, we should just say that it's not a certainty. That's Des Bryant was going to be in New Orleans until he got hurt. Like, it's not a certainty. It depends. We can't look at a situation and know for sure whether the new receiver on the new team immediately jibes with the quarterback. I think there are times where it happens and there are times where it doesn't. And I think it's idiosyncratic. It's case by case. We'll know it when we see it. It's stuff like, okay, when you run your crossing route, where do you tend to cross and where do you like the ball? And if that's sort of naturally what Deshaun Watson likes to do, cool. Then Demaryius Thomas doesn't have a steep learning curve. But if naturally Deshaun Watson just naturally throws the post closer to the sideline than Demaryius Thomas is used to, it's going to be a rougher adjustment. And it's kind of hard to know beforehand. But I would never look at it and say it's a one-to-one relationship that says I know for sure. Like, I think Demaryius Thomas is just sort of not that good. I think he's crested in his career. He upgrades his quarterback. He has a better quarterback to play with. Deshaun Watson is better than Case Keenum. So it probably is a boost slightly to Demaryius Thomas. But maybe the downgrade in not knowing the playbook and not having the chemistry, maybe let's call it a wash. And I was never excited to have Demaryius, so I'm still not. Cortland Sutton would seem to be the clear beneficiary. He had, against Houston, before their respective bye weeks, he had a fly pattern down the right sideline where the ball's in his hands. He made the catch. The defensive back just made a great play to strip it right as they're falling down, or else we're not having this conversation because Cortland Sutton is everybody's favorite wide receiver, So I would say he benefits just because I think he's good and because you do have that hole in the depth chart. And Emmanuel Sanders, I think he's good. He stays the same. He's a clear wide receiver too.
Right. Yeah, this whole kind of conversation about trades and how it affects people, I think it's like the perfect example for your crutch arguments. It's like, oh yeah, they got Golden Tate, so now Zach Ertz is going to be freed up over the middle, or Alshon down the field, or vice versa. Like, oh, Golden Tate's going to eat up targets or catches. And
that's it. Yeah, that's it. That's literally at ESPN when I kind of invented this idea of a crutch argument. It's basically, the idea is I have an argument that I want to make. let me find a piece of data that's true and employ it to support my argument as a crutch, no matter whether it necessarily implies what my argument wants to argue, which is the one that you just gave is exactly how it was born. It was this idea that receiver just got a second wide receiver. That's good for the wide receiver who was already there because it's going to take attention away. Or that's bad for the wide receiver that's already there because it's going to take targets away. And it could be either, but it isn't automatically necessarily either.
Right. Let's go ahead and wrap it up on this. We'll do a little bit of real football again here. We ran through the divisions earlier for each conference. What's your Super Bowl prediction?
I started the year telling everybody my prediction was Patriots Saints. And I don't, so I'm going to stick with it, partly because I want to look so smart. I'm just going to root for that, so then everybody will go, man, he's so smart, and really I need validation in that way. Also, it feels like maybe that's what's going to happen. We'll see about Kansas City. It's been a great story, but I fear that when you face either a very good defense or another very good offense, that the idea of just it's sort of the Andy Reid needs to show me something in December and January before I'm willing to believe in Andy Reid's teams. I hate to say this because the Chiefs are so fun and Mahomes is such a great story, but it feels a little like one of those poodle teams that the moment they sort of run up against it turns into not so like if they lose in the playoffs, it'll be some 45-41 game against the Patriots, right? Like they did like the regular season. Let's face it, that game could have gone either way. The Chiefs had a lead, like it definitely could have, but if it happens, that's what'll happen. The NFC is stronger. The NFC has 3 or 4 teams that I would put up against any team in the AFC. And to be honest, I think the Saints are a little bit of a poodle team. And I maybe I like the Rams a little more, but my official position is I need to look smart because I need validation as a human, so I'm going to say Patriots Saints.
That's a very good call before the season, and it still looks good now. How nervous were you like week 2 of the season on that Patriots Saints pick? Did it bother you at all with their shaky starts, or did it
nobody would have remembered, so I wouldn't have reminded anybody, and it just would have faded into oblivion. I would have been like, I didn't say that, did I? Nah. I mean, Saints losing to Tampa in week 1, I took Tampa and the points in that, so I just felt so smart, right? So I just, I'm always going to find a reason to feel smart.
Yeah. Well, Chris, I really appreciate you you making time for us and having you on. It's been a great time. We'll have to do it again, okay?
All right,
yeah, thanks for having me on. It was
Chris
fun.
Harris for coming onto the show and giving us your thoughts on fantasy football. I think the Dippers will really, really appreciate that. And thanks again, Fletch, for giving us an awesome interview. So, guys, Jimmy Butler finally got his wish. Congratulations, B-Reich. Your team has landed yet another superstar. Jimmy Butler to the 76ers, Dario Saric, Robert Covington, and some second-round pick will get to enjoy Tom Thibodeau and his win sprints as they head to the Timberwolves. What are your initial thoughts on this trade?
Well, my first thought is obviously this is a trade that I wanted the 76ers to make. I mean, Jimmy Butler is the type of player that I think can really put the 76ers over the top, but even more alarming once that initial like just joy came over, like how the hell does the T-Wolves turn down 4 first-round picks? And actually, not even that, they also turned down picks with like Eric Gordon in a first-round pick. I just don't get it. I think that this was the worst trade possible on the table for the T-Wolves. So happy for the 76ers, though. This is exactly what they needed.
Yeah, I'm really confused on why they took this trade. Are they that excited about Dario Saric?
Supposedly, they were huge on not sending him to a Western Conference team, which to me is just stupid because the T-Wolves aren't a true competitor.
The T-Wolves barely stuffed the playoffs last year with Jimmy Butler. Like, they're going to be some perennial contender this season all of a sudden. But no, this is by far the worst pick. Jimmy Butler, last year of his deal, he turned to the Rockets. Guess what? He won't be there next season. Could have turned to the Rockets. They got 4 first-round picks. And just over years, hopefully the Rockets aren't sucking like they are right now. And you have good picks. But no, you got Dario Saric and Covington and a 2020 second-round pick. So
Yeah, I definitely don't like the trade for the T-Wolves. Like, as far as all the trades that I've seen available, I I thought that this was the lowest one on the totem pole. I mean, you have a chance to basically have your pick at 4 guys, any 4 guys that you want over 4 trades. I know that they might not have been, lottery picks or anything like that, but I mean, are you really complacent with Dario Saric and Robert Covington being able to outplay 4 guys that you get to choose? It just kind of shows me that they're not really comfortable with their ability to make picks. Because if you're a team that is confident in your ability to evaluate talent, you are all over those first-round picks to be able to put alongside Wiggins and Towns for the future. But I don't think that this makes any sense to me, especially because these guys, they've been in the league already, so the shelf life of them being on a rookie contract is lower, and now you're going to have to pay them at a quicker time.
Yeah, and it also doesn't even make sense from a financial standpoint. The most cost-efficient player on any team is your rookie. They're on a rookie contract. They're on a rookie scale. And now you're going to have Dario Saric in, I think, like a year, maybe 2, coming off his contract. Robert Covington's on a team-friendly deal. But, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. You could have had 4 players at cost efficiency on a roster where you're already paying $40,000 to, 2 different players. I mean, $40 million, I'm sorry, to James Harden and Chris Paul. So it made no sense.
Yeah, I don't get it. Guys, what are your thoughts on the T-Wolves after this trade?
Like you said earlier, I don't know what the plan is really. They're going to have to, I guess they believe in Saric long term. They're going to have to believe that Wiggins can actually become where he needs to be, and Town keep developing, and Saric can be that third piece there, and they put players around those guys trying to become a contender, not the next 2 or 3 years, but over the next 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, the T-Wolves took a solid core, and I know Fletcher's talked about this, and they made a lot of stupid moves, tried to speed up a process, and ended up with 2 rotational players in a second-round pick. Now they're just an average team.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is bad for the T-Wolves. I think you lose out on probably 10 wins with this trade. I think it was that bad of a trade because, Jimmy Butler, he is a top 20 player. He is a legitimate superstar in the NBA, and he was the only guy on your team that really had that grit factor that, can go out there and lock down any other team's best player. So you're losing that with Jimmy Butler. I definitely don't like it with the T-Wolves. I think it's just another part of the mismanagement that this team has done. Are the 76ers your guys' favorite in the East now?
No, they're still not. I still think the Celtics will get together and they'll win the East. They're actually playing really good too. And the Bucks lost 2 games all season, scored 120, 124 points a game. They beat the Warriors at Oracle. So I think the Sixers still probably sit at 3 or 4. Because this works out though.
Obviously, I'm a little bit biased, but I think this puts a toss-up with the top 3 teams, and that's the Raptors, Celtics, 76ers. But I'm going to talk more about them, I think, a little bit later on the Hot Take Detective. So I'll save a little bit of that for then.
Yeah, I think that this makes the 76ers probably my favorite in the East because if you look at how the NBA's really worked out, in order to win, you have to have basically the best players there. Basketball's kind of gotten away from that team aspect, and it's more like who has the most superstars is going to win unless one team has LeBron. So I think that this definitely moves the needle for the 76ers to be able to win the conference, and you look at them head-to-head, player by player, against the Celtics. I think that they are sitting there. The only player that you could even put in the top 4 of being on the court at any given moment would be Kyrie Irving, because I think that Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and Jimmy Butler are going to be 3 of the best 4 players on the court at any given moment in that series.
Mm-hmm.
So, guys, Carmelo Anthony actually sat out last night against the Pacers, and the Rockets responded by winning. Imagine that. Reports have come out and said that the Rockets may be moving on without Melo's services and is on pace to be the only guy to not have success under Mike D'Antoni. What do you guys think about this move by the Rockets? Do you think it is fair to do that to Melo?
Well, Melo, been at the top of the show. Last year he played so good. The Hawks are paying him $27 million to not be on their team. So what's next for Melo? Well, there are 3 options. 1, he goes to Miami and lives up the Sun. Player D Wade retires. Option 2, goes to LA, so keep the Sun players with LeBron. Option 3, go to Golden State and win a ring.
I don't think Golden State wants that.
I don't think
Golden State
wants
wouldn't
him
want
either.
it because Carmelo. The simple thing about Carmelo is he just has the lowest amount of self-awareness that is possible for an NBA player. Like, he doesn't understand that his game has deteriorated so much that all he is an offensive weapon and a shooter. And right now he's not even doing that very well. I think what the Rockets wanted, I suppose they had a talk with him, and I think they wanted to lower his minutes even more and just tell him, like, hey, this is how we want you to play. And clearly, I don't think they saw eye to eye. So really what I think his next move is that he needs to go to some schmuck of a team so he can sell tickets and play how he wants, because no contender wants him right now.
No, and I think that no contender should want him. I've seen some things that have come out, like the 76ers could use
Garbage.
him. Absolutely not. You keep Melo as far away from Philadelphia as you possibly can if you're anywhere in the organization for the 76ers. They've done a very good job at managing this team. I think Melo would just set them back 10 years, and you don't want that. I don't know if this is necessarily fair by the Rockets to just, you knew what you were getting. You knew what you were getting. You can't come in 10, 11, 12 games in and say, all right, pack up your stuff and leave just because we're not having success. I don't think that was fair for them to do that to Melo. I think that there's a lot of things going wrong there, and it's not just Melo, because you knew what you were getting. Like, everybody knew what you were getting. So I don't know why you're jumping ship so early on this thing. It makes no sense to me. B-Right, get ready to see him in a 76ers jersey.
I hope to hell not.
It's going to happen.
So I have actually 3 hot takes for B-Reich. Guys, each week that B-Reich is on, we play a game called B-Reich the Hot Take Detective. Basically, the way that this works out is I say a hot take. Usually they are scolding hot, and Brandon tells me if I am right or wrong in my take. First take. Now that the 76ers have Jimmy Butler, they have taken the throne as the best team in the East.
So they are definitely one of the best teams. And I'm trying to be very impartial here because I want to go ahead and just crown them. But basically what the 76ers did was get an all-star version of Robert Covington who can absolutely score the ball, which will work so well with the all-stars they already have, with Ben Simmons possibly being the most passive all-star in the NBA right now. You have Joel Embiid inside and you have Butler scoring on the outside. This will also, to my opinion, allow for the Sixers to start a power forward that's more defensively inclined, like a Wilson Chandler once he gets healthy. Dario Saric, great offensively, but, I mean, teams have been torching him on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, Blake Griffin dropped like a 50-piece. Anthony Davis dominated him. I mean, those are 2 all-stars, but still, he can't stop anybody. So then, now, to me, we put Fultz on the bench. That experiment's not working with him in the starting lineup. You have J.J. Redick as a shooter, and now you have a great starting lineup. You have Fultz manage the point guard position in the backcourt because he is still really good with the ball in his hands. And then you try to grab another shooter, which there's not a lack of actual shooters in the NBA that are looking for a job, especially after teams start struggling down the end of it. So, in my opinion, this team now has 3 of the top 6 players in the East, and they definitely, and I don't think anybody should say they are not a top contender for the Eastern Conference. And I definitely think they could win it all if they could all gel correctly. So I'm not ready to say they're above the Raptors and Celtics, but they're definitely like right there. So I kind of have them all as a kind of a tie for first.
All right, so I'm 50% right.
You're 50% right there.
All right, I'll take a half of a win on that. Take number 2. If UCF pulls off the win versus top 25 Cincy this weekend, while everyone ahead of them plays lesser opponents, if they pull off the win this week and do not leapfrog a single team, the committee is flawed they should shred it down, and the NCAA needs to start over on their playoff.
Where do you think UCF should be?
Right now?
Yes.
Oh, they should at least be in the top 10, especially after last week. I would say that they should be in a position to where if things play out like they should, they go undefeated, they should definitely at least be in the 4th spot. There should be a route there for them.
So here's my issue. Yes, the fact that Kentucky was ranked above them last in the last college football playoff, whatever, that was abysmal. That was crazy, and that honestly even pissed me off a little bit. I think UCF is right at the top 10. But the matter of the fact is they don't play a lot of good teams. I mean, if you look at most of the, I'll say the top 8 teams above them, they've all won very, very quality against very, very quality opponents in multiple of those. I do agree if UCF wins, they probably should leapfrog somebody. And I am actually really into that they need to adopt more of a play-in game because I don't think 4 teams are getting it done. I mean, there's even more teams that are getting kind of screwed. I mean, West Virginia is kind of getting screwed. I mean, how is Oklahoma ranked that much higher than them? I mean, there's a lot. You can point to a lot of things, but I'll definitely say this: the committee is flawed because they have chosen 6 teams that they want to be in there, and those are probably your top 6 ranked teams. And then somehow LSU still has 2 losses, and they're still ranked number 7. So I do believe it's flawed. I don't think UCF should be even top 8 right now, but I will agree with you just for the plain fact that I think the committee is completely flawed. They're completely throwing out games, game totals, and they're just looking at who they think the best team is, and that's really not what any sport's about. So I will agree with you on that.
Okay. I'm 1.5 for 2, so I'll take that. 3. Tom Brady, who has an identical QBR to Jameis Winston, a quarterback rating almost identical to Matthew Stafford, and a yards per attempt identical to Marcus Mariota, is getting a huge pass on being very ineffective, and we can go ahead and plant the flag in the sand and say that the regression has finally started. And I'll go ahead and point it back. We had talked about how Marcus Mariota has only thrown for 240 yards 3 times this season. So, B-Right, take it away.
I mean, obviously the decline is here somewhat. He's 41. He's lost zip on his ball. He's not the same player, but I mean, we've been on this podcast questioning where the money was even spent on the Patriots. I mean, we're confused where even the money is going. And this team, to all of us, even a week ago, was definitely a top 5 team in the NFL. I think a lot of it is he doesn't throw a lot of touchdowns because they do have a very big commitment to running the ball. And as if they don't run the ball, he's not the same player he used to be. But I want to know, are you still putting him as amongst a top 10 quarterback in the league? I mean, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I think he is as far as which quarterbacks I'd want for a game. But as far as his statistical performance, usually he's up there in the MVP category. But now, we have seen such a decline in the stats that, I mean, if you just look at his touchdown totals over the last few games, and he's on pace to throw more interceptions than he has in a very, very long time, maybe ever. I just think that, if you are not accepting the fact that Tom Brady is not the best in the game today, you are completely wrong.
Yeah, I know. I mean, he's not the best in the game today, but I just wanted to make sure you were still saying he was good, because if the game came down to it, I still want Tom Brady on my team. He's still leading a team that I don't think is good throughout their whole roster. I don't think they're heads and shoulders above the others, and they're still playing very well. Decline? Yes, the decline is here, and maybe it's been here for a couple seasons, and he's been figuring out ways to just, play above his physical decline. So I will say he is on a decline, but I just wanted to make sure you were still on it, that he was one of the top quarterbacks.
Okay, so I got 2.5 out of 3 on this.
Yeah, sadly.
Awesome.
I know.
That is the best I have ever done, guys. So Saucy 6-pack of games for Week 11. Maybe the best week we've had, guys. No Cowboys or Giants on prime time. A full slate of what should be exciting games. Kicking things off Thursday night. I think this is the game that we can say the loser is virtually eliminated from playoff contention. Packers at Seahawks. Who's going to win?
I'm going to the Seahawks. Basically, just get that Seattle, and let's hope something get the job done here.
Yeah, I'm going to go Seahawks. I'm just really down on this Packers team. And honestly, the Seahawks, I was so down at the beginning of the season, but they've really impressed me lately. And they figured out how to run the ball, give Russell Wilson some time. So I'm going to go with the Seahawks.
Yeah, I'm going with the Seahawks as well. Basically, because it's a Thursday night game and they're the home team. Like, if this game was in Lambeau, I would be picking the Packers. I think that these teams are pretty comparable. So if I just go off of what I said at the beginning of the show with Thursday night football, I have to go with the Seahawks. So, guys, Steelers at Jags. A little rewind from last year, the matchup that we got to see in the playoffs.
I'm going to go with the Steelers. I think it's going to be a very low-scoring, grand amount football game.
I just think this will be the final nail in the coffin for the Jaguars. Their mismanaged season, none of us saw it coming. Steelers, I don't even think it's going to be that close, personally.
No, I don't think this will be a close game at all. I think that the Steelers are actually going to kind of put it to them, and the Steelers are going to kind of get payback for how last season they looked so bad against the Jaguars in the regular season, eventually got eliminated by them in the playoffs. So they'll kind of get the last laugh with this game here. Eagles at the Saints, be in the Dome. So, guys, do you have the cojones to pick against Drew Brees in the Dome?
Absolutely not. Never have, never will. Saints.
Oh, yeah, it's Saints. I mean, we shouldn't even have to say why.
Yeah, I think this is going to be another game that has the potential to be a blowout. Looks good on paper, but the Saints are absolutely rolling. Texans at the Redskins. Battle of the leaders of the worst division in football.
Well, see, I think the AFC South isn't that bad, but Texans just rolling everybody because Super Bowl champions this year. So I got to go with them.
Yeah, the Redskins are a funny team. And I still don't think they're going to win that division. I still think the Cowboys or Eagles are going to figure that one out. But yeah, it's Texans. They're rolling. They're undefeated 6 straight weeks.
I'm actually going to go with the Redskins. These are two teams that win in really, really ugly ways. Josh Norman actually came out and said that, he questioned the fans for Washington and how anytime anything bad happens, they kind of get down. I know the Redskins, anytime they really play a good team, they kind of get slaughtered. But, the bubble has to burst with the Texans at some point, and the Texans are coming off of a bye week, and if you give Bill O'Brien more time to prepare for a game, I think it's actually worse for his players. So for that simple fact, I'm going with the Redskins. Vikings at Bears. Sunday Night Football.
Ooh.
Winner gets sole possession of the NFC North. I've already said 50 times I'm excited for this game.
Yeah, Jake's full pumped for this game in case you don't know that. But the Bears have looked really good all season long. Matt Nagy, Coach of the Year, he had Trubisky looking like a top 15, good solid quarterback. But the Bears have been a good team all season, so I can't give them this game. I'm with the Vikings.
This game I am actually really interested in because I want to see if the Bears can win a good game. And the Vikings are a very good team. I'm going to go with the Vikings, but if the Bears win this game, I'm going to say the Bears are for real and they're in my contender cart.
Yeah, I think that this game, if the Bears are able to pull it off, I think that they, obviously should be in the contender cart that we did last week. But I really think that the Bears are going to win. And, Leighton, you said that the Bears haven't beaten a good team all season. I really don't know if the Vikings have either. I mean, they basically played a pretty similar schedule to the Bears in the fact that they are able to beat the bad teams, lose the good teams. But the Bears, whenever they play good teams, they at least make it look close, and they're just a play away in most games. I think that the Bears at home are deadly this season. The defense will be rolling. Khalil Mack is absolutely dump trucking offensive lineman, and the Vikings have a very, very questionable spot at both tackles. I think that this is going to be a game that the Bears jump on them early and are able to pull it off at the end. Chiefs at Rams. Maybe the game of the whole season. Game we've really been looking forward to. 2 9-1 teams battling it out. Over-under is already the highest that they have recorded since 1986, set at 64.
Wow.
I think I'll actually take that over, too. Who do you guys like in this game?
It's a really tough one, but honestly, Cooper Kupp being out affected a lot for me. I'm going to go with the Chiefs. The Cooper Kupp, he kind of just got off tinted blanket in a way. He was his guy. And now he's out, so can Will pick up that slack? Don't know. But nothing top of the Chiefs' offense.
I'm actually going with the Rams. I think it will be a high-scoring game. I think we all know it's going to be a high-scoring game. But I think the Rams are going to outclass them, and I think Chiefs will get their second loss.
I think that this is going to be a huge, huge game for Todd Gurley. We look at what David Johnson, who's been really ineffective this whole season, did to him last week. If you think that David Johnson can do that, imagine what Sean McVay and Todd Gurley are going to be able to do. I give the Rams just a slight defensive edge, and the fact that the Rams are actually, with all the wildfires and everything that's going on this week, unfortunate for them, but they're actually going to Colorado Springs this week to get ready for this game. So, guys, Mexico City has a higher altitude than Colorado Springs, so I think that that's going to be a huge thing to look out for, and I think that the Rams, over the period of the game, are going to be able to wear down the Chiefs, who are potentially going to be practicing all week in Kansas City. I think that they're going to be ready for the altitude, ready for everything, and I think Todd Gurley is going to run them to a victory. This is going to be a super fun game, though. So, guys, it is time for Pip's Entertainment Review. Each week he goes out and he watches a movie, comes back to us, tells if it's worth watching or not. So, Leighton, see what we got for us this week.
1 2 1 2 Pip's Entertainment Review. Sit on down for a movie to view.
This week I watched Overlord, and this has been kind of a marathon of podcast. I'll keep this one short. Overlord, it made by J.J. Abrams, who made Cloverfield, the new Star Wars movies, the TV show Lost. One of my favorite filmmakers next to Quentin Tarantino and Christopher Nolan. But Overlord's about a group of air patrol that go into a town in France on World War II, day before Normandy, and they have to take down a tower. And it really explores how they had the World War II stories, what kind of experiments the Nazis were doing about, the serums and stuff.
Yeah, I can't remember the guy's name, but wasn't he like injecting stuff into people's eyes and all kinds of crazy stuff like that?
All kind of crazy, rumors like that. And basically, in the movie, the Nazis made a serum that can make people, 1, zombies, and 2, basically indestructible. So it follows a team of air patrol where they go into the town and shut down the radio tower and leads to that. It's a really good movie. When I first left the theater, I thought, it was okay. But the more I sat down and thought about it, the more I started to like it. I'm going to give this one 2.1 dips. It's a really weird genre. It's like sci-fi / war movie. So
That's an awesome combination.
It is awesome. Sci-fi is my favorite genre. I like war movies a lot. Like Saving Private Ryan. It's not as good as that, but it's a war movie. Follows a similar story path. So I like this movie a lot. 2.1 dips.
I think
that's actually pretty solid.
I think that medication that was making people indestructible was crack. Have you seen a crackhead? They can do a lot of things.
I will say the people after they get with the serum kind of look like crackheads.
So there we
That's
go.
hilarious. So what was the name of the movie again? I've actually seen the previews for this. It looks kind of cool. And I've seen a lot of stuff that Nazi Germany had done back in the day. They would take like Siamese twins and like do experiments on both of them, and then they were like injecting stuff into people's eyes to see if they could change their colors and stuff.
They really like twins.
Yeah.
Yes.
Movie called Overlord. Check it out. J.J. Abrams. 2.1 dips.
All right. Is that the Transformers guy?
No, that's Michael Bay. Michael Bay sucks.
Oh, okay.
We don't talk about Michael Bay on the podcast.
So guys, any bold predictions?
Yes. The Giants and 49ers score tonight is a combined under of 24 points.
I'm going to say they just both got an explosion, and it's over 40.
Nick Mullins versus Eli Manning. What do you expect? My bold prediction is that Syracuse wins this game against Notre Dame, and not just wins, but wins by double digits. Guys, anything else before we wrap this show up?
Dippers, we talk about basketball in the show very briefly because it's talking Hoops Hysteria out every Wednesday with Fletcher, who is the best basketball analyst I've ever talked to and heard talk in my life. Happy to be my best friend, fortunately. So we're talking about all these topics and more on Wednesday.
R.I.P. Stanley.
All right, and on that note, Tippers, for Drake, for Leighton, for B-Rod, as always, stay saucy.